The first round of the 2018 NHL Intro Draft is complete. In today's video, we're going to recap the selections and discuss some of the trades we saw in round 1. And that's coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So the first round of the 2018 NHL Intro Draft was completed last night. It was a very fun event to watch. There was a lot of surprise picks. There were a few notable trades, but there wasn't a lot of trade talk. It was much quieter than a lot of us expected. A lot of us have discussed the possibility that there could be some blockbuster trades happen, and we didn't really see that. Majority of the trades were jockeying for position, and there was a minor trade involving NHL players as well, and we'll get into that here momentarily. But keep in mind, rounds 2 through 7 go here today on Saturday, so the draft is not over. There very well could be plenty of activity, and there could be lots of trades that go down today. By the time this video is posted, round 2 will likely be underway here, so it could still very well be a very active day, and we still might see a lot of activity on the trade front. We did see many conversations taking place on the draft floor last night between many of the different teams' GMs, but there wasn't a whole lot of actual activity that came to be. But after getting through the first round, getting all their selections looked after, and a lot of things to think about, we may see some of these GMs pull the trigger today and make some big trades. Now on the trade front, one deal that happened before the first selection was made went down between the Washington Capitals and the Colorado Avalanche. The Avalanche picked up goaltender Philip Grubauer and defenseman Brooks Orpik. Going back to the Capitals was pick number 47, which will take place in the second round today. So obviously in Grubauer, the Avalanche get another goaltender. When we did our Avalanche recap video, we suggested that perhaps they have some goaltending questions that need to be answered here. Are they going to be going with Varlamov long term, or how are they going to proceed with that? Because he doesn't have a lot of term left on his deal. They also have goaltender Pavel Francouz, who they brought over from the Czech Republic and signed to a 1-year contract. And now they have Grubauer, who's an RFA, and apparently they're working on a contract. That contract could be announced today. They're looking at likely a 3-year deal. So could we see another move out of the Avalanche organization for another goaltender possibly being moved out? Safe to say Jonathan Bernier definitely won't be brought back. But there's certainly some more questions there. I mean, I guess Francouz could possibly play in the minors. Hard to say. But they do have more goaltenders than they did before. So we could potentially see another move here. Otherwise, the other trades involved were mainly just swapping of draft picks. We saw the Ottawa Senators and the New York Rangers swap picks. The Senators took their 22nd pick, decided to move back down to the 26th spot. So with that trade, the Rangers get pick number 22, and the Senators get pick number 26, as well as a second rounder. We saw a trade between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the St. Louis Blues as well, involving some picks. The Leafs also decided to move back. They traded pick number 25 in exchange for pick number 29 and pick number 76. So they picked up a lower first-round pick and an extra third-rounder in order to drop back in the draft here. Now the first round of picks, there was a lot of picks that were not surprising, but there certainly were plenty that absolutely were. We've seen a couple of these guys fall lower than we expected. Based on all the mock drafts that we completed and all the scouting services that I followed, there certainly were a few players that were quite surprising. The first couple picks though, no shocks at all. Rasmus Dahlin goes number 1 to the Buffalo Sabres. Andrei Svechnikov goes number 2 to the Hurricanes. So there's no surprises there whatsoever. The number 3 selection, I've been saying for quite some time now. A lot of Habs fans were kind of debating with me whether or not they should or they shouldn't. But at the same time here, like when I'm making some of these mock drafts, I wasn't necessarily going with what I thought they should do. A lot of it was revolving around what I thought they would do. And the rumor had it, and the speculation was Montreal's in desperate need of center iceman, and they were going to go after Finnish center Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and they did just that. Now there was a lot of Habs fans on hand for the draft live in Dallas, Texas at the arena, and the looks on some of their faces were completely shocking. I'm going to put a couple images up here on the screen. These people were obviously very upset with the pick. So I know there's a lot of Habs fans that follow this channel and watch a lot of the videos here. So I'd like to hear your thoughts now that this is actually real and has taken place. What are your thoughts on Kotkaniemi? And are you upset as a Habs fan that they passed over players like Tkachuk and Zadina or some of the top D to go with Kotkaniemi? Now, at this point in time, it's kind of hard to predict what Kotkaniemi will be. We're probably looking at about a 3-year window before we really know if this pick is going to pan out or not. So, you know, could he play next year? I don't think he will. I guess the Habs could push him into their lineup. but before the draft, it was likely speculated that he would probably play another year in Finland and then come over and then kind of ease his way into an NHL lineup if he was ready at that point. So I don't know what the plan is going to be for the Habs with Kotkaniemi. They do need centers, and I guess that question might be answered by any other moves they make here over the next few days or as we head into free agency. So I guess we'll kind of reevaluate that once we have a better indication of what the Habs center ice position is going to look like heading into the fall here. But I really want to know your reaction as a Montreal Canadiens fan. Are you pleased with this pick, or are you upset and feel like they passed over more talent to take this player because of the need at center ice? Now, there's a lot of debate. You've seen, for anybody watching the draft, I know I was watching here on Sportsnet in Canada, and I know a lot of the commentators, specifically Brian Burke, who's a former NHL GM for multiple teams here, said when you have a pick that high, you always take the best available player. You don't draft by position because you don't get those picks very often, and there's often a lot of top talent there that you may pass up if you draft by position. So I tend to agree with Burke on that call. I guess if you feel, but there have also been cases where those picks have gone, where teams have gone off the board and drafted by position, and it has worked out. But I think more often than not, it's gone the other way. But we'll see here what happens. It's a long ways out, but I'd like to know your reaction as a Canadiens fan, because I know the reaction at the arena was not very positive. Number 4, we've seen the Ottawa Senators select Brady Tkachuk. That was a little bit surprising, but not greatly. I mean, by the time the number 4 pick rolled around, I knew it was going to be Tkachuk or Zadina. I thought they might go Zadina, but really, if you think about it, Brady Tkachuk is an excellent choice for the Senators. He's big and he's strong. He plays a solid two-way game. He can be very offensive. We've seen that, especially at the World Junior Championships, and he really fits well with a lot of the other players they have coming up through their system. A lot of the other systems they have had, right now they have a ton of right now the Senators have a lot of young U.S.-born players, and a lot of these players have played together at various levels over the years as they're working their way up the ranks. So they could have potentially an All-American line here soon enough between Brady Tkachuk, Logan Brown, and Colin White. So they certainly seem to be fond of the players coming up through the U.S. National Development Program and the NCAA recently. So obviously I think Tkachuk does fit well with the other guys they've got coming up, and I think he'll be an excellent choice long-term for Ottawa. So there's really nothing to be upset about. I was a little surprised. I thought they might go Zadina, but after reanalyzing it and looking at how he fits with their other prospects, I'm quite pleased with the selection myself. Then at number 5, this one was a real big surprise for me. The Arizona Coyotes take Barrett Hayton. They passed up Zadina as well. You know, nothing against Barrett Hayton. I'm sure he'll be a fine NHL player, but a lot of drafts, including myself, have him anywhere from like 10 to 13, 14 range. You know, you could probably argue he was probably maybe the second or third best center iceman in the draft. But obviously he's a player that John Chayka was absolutely in love with here and felt that he had to select. Hearing Chayka's interview after he made the selection, basically said that he's kind of zoned in on Hayton a long time ago, around the Christmas time, and was really enamored with his play and really wanted him on the Coyotes team. So, you know, it's a little bit of a reach. I mean, going at number 5, to me, that's even more of a reach than the Habs taking Kotkaniemi. Once we get through the NHL Combine, a lot of these media outlets and ranking systems kind of put out their final selections. Kotkaniemi really did work his way up the draft board here. So it's not as shocking for me for him to go at 3 as it was for Hayton to go at 5. I mean, that's quite a shock. Then Detroit gets Philip Zadina handed to them on a silver platter. The Detroit Red Wings went into this draft with a need on defense. They obviously have a glaring need back there in the blue line, but when you have a nice Christmas gift with Philip Zadina's name written on it at the draft, you have to take it, and Ken Holland did that. He did exactly what a lot of Habs fans were telling Bergevin to do. You have to take the best player available. You don't always draft by position. Even though he had a great need on defense, like he said, you can't pass up an elite scorer like Zadina when they're given to you on a silver platter. So the Red Wings here were big-time winners in the draft, grabbing Zadina at number 6. The number 7 pick belonged to the Vancouver Canucks, and they selected Quinn Hughes. I think Hughes is an excellent choice for them. He's likely going to play in Michigan again next year, but he's a great skater, great puck mover. He's going to really help their back end. So I was quite pleased with the Canucks taking Hughes. The number 8 selection, the Chicago Blackhawks took Adam Boqvist. Boqvist likely is a year or two away, but he is a tremendous offensively gifted, great skating defenseman. Defensive play needs a little bit of work, but I think the Hawks can be patient with him and work on his play here over the next year or two before he likely makes his debut in the NHL. But a great selection by Chicago. They have a need in the back end, and they addressed it there. But you could make the argument at that point that Boqvist likely was at least one of the best players available as well. The number 9 selection with the Rangers, they kind of go off the board a little bit here with Vitaly Kravtsov. Kravtsov's one of those players that we've seen his stock rise significantly in the last number of weeks and months here, and I'm not surprised he ended up going as a first-round pick. I am surprised he went so high, though. To me, him going at number 9 to the Rangers is a bit of a reach. I think there might be some better players left on the board here at this point in time, but the Rangers have 3 selections in the first round. They ended up using them all, and they felt like they could take the chance here with this player. So we'll see how he pans out. I was a little bit surprised, but he's certainly a great player. I'm not surprised he went in the first round, but I thought they might do things a little differently, but we'll see how that works out for them. The number 10 pick belonged to the Edmonton Oilers, and they get a big booming offensive defenseman to address their blue line issues right now, which is Evan Bouchard from London in the OHL. He is going to be a tremendous asset. I thought personally the Oilers might go with Dobson because I thought Dobson's a way better skater than Bouchard. I thought he might fit better with the fast pace that the Oilers are looking to play here with guys like McDavid, Yamamoto, other youngsters back there. They're trying to become a really fast team, try to move out some of the slower players. I thought Dobson might be a better fit, but at the same time, Bouchard is a little bit more offensive as well. Can be a power play quarterback and all that. So really, I think Bouchard is a good pick for the Oilers. Next up, we had the New York Islanders with back-to-back selections, and they knocked that one out of the park. Lou Lamoriello and his staff did a tremendous job here. They grabbed Oliver Wahlstrom and Noah Dobson. I mean, I didn't think either of those players were going to be available at 11 and 12. So again, to me, the Wings and the Islanders here were benefactors of other off-the-board selections, if you will, by the teams ahead of them. I was extremely pleased. The Islanders did a great job. They got themselves a sniper and a really solid top 4, potentially top pairing defenseman. So the Islanders, great job, New York Islanders. You did a great job with those selections. The hometown team, the Dallas Stars, took Ty Dellandrea at the number 13 pick. Dellandrea is a pretty solid-looking center iceman. Again, I think it's a bit of a reach here. I thought the hometown crowd might try to make a little bit bigger splash. They brought in Jamie Benn and Mike Modano up on stage. The current captain, the old former captain, was one of the greatest players in franchise history to make the selection, which was great. It was fun to watch. It was great for the crowd. But when they picked Dellandrea, I was quite surprised. I thought, for example, they might go, if they're going to take a center, they might take Joe Veleno. I thought if they go with a winger, they might take Farabee. But they decided to kind of shake things up here and go with Ty Dellandrea. Nothing against Dellandrea. I had him ranked a little bit lower, but I thought there might have been some better fits on the board for Dallas. Being the hometown crowd, I thought they might have went a little differently here. But at number 14, the Philadelphia Flyers grabbed Joel Farabee. Obviously, Farabee is going to be a high-scoring winger. At least he looks to be. He's been so far in his career. But he's also had a chance to play with a lot of elite players. So we'll see how he does with his old line mates once he moves on and makes it to the NHL. But Joel Farabee is a high-scoring winger. I think he'll be a good fit with the Flyers organization. Number 15, the Florida Panthers take Gregory Cinco. Not too big of a shock that he went in the first round, but again, a player that I thought might go a little bit later into the first round, but he's kind of one of those bubble guys, depending on where you looked at. He was ranked differently within the first round. At the 16th selection, the Avalanche select Czech Republic player Martin Kaut. Kaut certainly has a chance to be an offensive player, likely a year or two away, but no big surprise there. Number 17, the New Jersey Devils grabbed himself another offensive D with Ty Smith. First time, this is the latest we've ever seen the first selection from the WHL actually ever take place. The WHL tends to produce a lot of pretty solid hockey players, and this is the first time we've seen the first pick from that league go so late into the draft. But Ty Smith was another player who kind of dropped a little bit here, and New Jersey snapped him up. So he's an undersized, very quick offensive defenseman. I think he'll be a good fit in New Jersey. Number 18, Columbus Blue Jackets grabbed Liam Foodie from London. Liam Foodie is a player who kind of blew everybody away at the draft combine. Had a tremendous showing, ranked very high in a lot of the testing they go through, and his stock really rose after that. Not surprised he got into the first round. I thought he might have been a little lower in the first round, but the Blue Jackets grabbed themselves a pretty solid prospect there. The Philadelphia Flyers grabbed Jay O'Brien, another surprising pick, a player who I had pegged later, probably in the second round. So, obviously some of these picks were kind of off the board, if you will. There's a lot of talent left over into round 2 here that I really thought would go in round 1. Number 20 selection, the LA Kings grab Finnish center Rasmus Kupari. We've talked a lot about Kupari on this channel and different, the top centers and the sleeper picks, whatnot. I think they could have themselves a pretty solid player, but they're going to have to be patient. I see Kupari being a couple years away. But again, another good selection by the LA Kings here. Should fit in the organization well down the road. Number 21, the San Jose Sharks take a risk on Ryan Merkley, the offensive defenseman from Guelph, who could very well be the top draft steal in this draft if he can get things together. He's offensively very gifted. You could argue he has top 10 skills. We know he has top 10 skills. Merkley's been plagued by issues with attitude and stubbornness to learn the defensive side of the game. So obviously it's a high risk, high reward kind of pick. If things work out, though, the Sharks could have themselves a very offensive defenseman on the blue line. Number 22 pick, which Ottawa flipped to the Rangers. The Rangers took Keandre Miller, another tremendous defenseman. I'm a little bit surprised Miller fell to where he did. Obviously, the Rangers wanted to move up and grab him, so pretty good selection there. Number 23, Anaheim takes a Swedish center, Isaac Lundestrom. So they drafted a little bit by need, but you could argue Lundestrom might have been the best player available at that point as well. So a pretty good selection there by the Ducks. The Minnesota Wild took Philip Johansson at number 24. 5 pick, which was St. Louis, ended up moving up to grab the pick from the Maple Leafs, and they took a German-born player playing in Sweden, Dominic Bach. Bach is going to be a really solid offensive player, I think. So a good move by St. Louis to move up. They've got a ton of young prospects who are very offensively gifted forwards. So we'll see what St. Louis does here moving forward, but they have a lot of young guys to work with. The number 26 selection, the Ottawa Senators took their pick and then actually kind of went off the board here again. They took a defenseman out of Alberta. Selects defenseman Jacob Bernard Decker from Alberta. Another player who was kind of another off-the-board pick, if you will. A lot of ranking services had him ranked to go probably middle of the second round. So Ottawa obviously really liked this guy. And I'm not shocked that they took a defenseman after taking Tkachuk with their first pick. But based on who else was available, that pick was a little bit surprising. Number 27, the Blackhawks select defenseman Nicolas Baudelaire from Drummondville. So another solid defensive pickup for the Blackhawks. So that's 2 solid D that the Blackhawks have added to their organization, which is certainly huge for them moving forward. 28 pick, the New York Rangers selected Nils Lundqvist. So another Lundqvist joins the Rangers organization. So obviously that's another pick that was kind of borderline. You could argue Lundqvist was kind of projected to possibly be a first rounder, maybe a second. So another selection where it's kind of like a little bit surprised, but not really. For 29 selection, the Toronto Maple Leafs ended up swapping with the Blues. They took defenseman Rasmus Sandin. Rasmus Sandin is actually a player who I actually had pegged correctly in the mock draft going to Toronto. So obviously I think, based on everything I knew, that he would be a player that they were zoned in on, and they felt like they could move down, grab another asset, and still get him. So obviously that worked out well for the Maple Leafs there. So the first deal by Kyle Dubas on the draft floor seems to have worked out pretty decent. At number 30, the Red Wings swoop in here with another steal and grab center Joe Veleno, who was free falling. A lot of us had Veleno pegged to go, upper half of the first round, anywhere from 10 to 15, and he drops all the way down to 30. It's really quite a wonder what happened here with Joe Veleno. Why did he free fall so far? Why did a lot of these teams shy away from taking him? It's kind of mind-boggling, to be honest. I didn't see any ranking service that had him ranked any lower than like 15 to 20, and he drops all the way to 30. It's certainly the biggest question for me of all these selections is what happened to Veleno. First round, the 31st pick was the Capitals, the Stanley Cup champions, and they took defenseman Alex Alexiev, very solid, big guy, 6'3", almost 6'4", big offensively gifted defenseman. His draft stock fell a little bit this year as he missed a lot of time, but he's got a lot of skill. And when we talked about the top sleeper picks in the draft before in our previous video, he's certainly a player that we mentioned there, and I think long term he could work out to be a great selection for Washington. So there you have it. That's your first round recap. There wasn't many trades. It's a lot of kind of questionable selections by numerous clubs here. There's lots of talent left over here to go from round 1 to round 2. Obviously, a lot of these picks we can't really properly analyze and really say how good or strong or bad they were for a few years here until these players have had a chance to develop. So let me know down in the comments, were you happy with what your team did? Let me know down in the comments, and what picks really surprised you. I know for me there was quite a number of them. There's easily 6 to 7 players that I thought would go in the first round that did not. We saw many teams go off the board, and could we see much more activity on the trade front as we go into rounds 2 through 7 here this afternoon? So let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and we'll be doing another recap video either today or tomorrow, depending on what goes down here at the draft, to recap the remaining activity that we see on the draft floor. So if you're new to the channel, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there's plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.